I didn't think this was gonna turn out good, but it did, and I'm excited to share with you. Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jorge and today I have an exciting thrift flip for you. So I found this really cool coffee table set and I actually really liked it, but the color was just not the vibe for me. So I'm going to share with you how I transformed them and a couple of tips and tricks on how you can transform your coffee table set. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the coffee table set that I found at the thrift store. I absolutely love the design, not a fan of the wood tones, and I'm really liking the fact that the metal legs are made out of steel, but it just needs a little love. After giving everything a good clean, I began by removing the drawers. Now I will be painting this, so I want to make sure that the paint has something really well to adhere to. So I'm going to go ahead and give everything a good sanding before doing that. I must admit that sanding is not a very fun job, but with an orbital sander it really helps get the job done faster. I must admit that I went overboard with the sanding, but my original intention was to refinish this and stain them in a lighter color. But after sanding this, I quickly realized that the veneer was way too thin, so my only option really was to just paint this. And I went up to 320 grit sandpaper just to get a really smooth, professional finish. After sanding the end tables, I moved on to the coffee table. Now this one had a little bit of issue because the top was sort of detached from the sides, so that means I needed to re-glue it. But before I did that, I just went ahead and gave everything a good sand before gluing on the sides. And with the magic of editing, I managed to sand this in 1 second compared to 30 minutes. How great would that be? Now my favorite glue to use when woodworking is Goodwill by Elmer's. That turns out to be a really strong glue once it fully cures. And since I don't have enough clamps, I'm going to just be putting these 2 bricks on top just to clamp it into place. And I basically left that overnight. Of course, I always like to wipe off excess glue because sanding that is not fun. Okay, so there are about 16 drawers and I'm gonna have to take off every single drawer front, and that is 4, so that means 4 times 16 drawers. What is that? 64 screws to remove. That's gonna be fun. The veneer on the drawer fronts was very thin, so I only sanded lightly because I do want to restain these. Now some of that finish was still left on there, but that's okay, it does not really matter, and I'm going to show you why later. Okay, so it's a bit windy outside, so I apologize about the noise, but before I get started on the drawer fronts, I have something special planned for that. But first, I'm going to go ahead and paint this. I'm going to apply 1 to 2 coats of primer and then paint color. Can you guess what color it's going to be? Let's find out. I'm applying 1 to 2 coats of primer using a foam roller to get a nice professional finish. This is a very important step, especially when painting raw wood, because oftentimes paint can get stained over time. Luckily, I'll be painting this a dark color, so it won't really matter that much. Before staining the drawer fronts, I'm going to tape off the drawers to make sure that I get a crisp and clean finish using some painter's tape. The key to a good stain job is to use a pre-stained wood conditioner, and I find that this helps prevent uneven staining and really avoid all of the splotchiness that can occur, especially with a dark stain. Now per instructions, I'm supposed to let this soak in for about 15 minutes, then I can apply the stain. And the stain that I went with was this dark ebony color by Minwax, and I think it'll look really well against the black coffee table. In the end, I ended up applying about 2.5 coats of this, allowing each coat to dry fully. To be honest, I probably could have gotten away with just using a gel stain, but in the end, this also works, so there really is no right or wrong. It seems like a lot of furniture painters use chalk paint, and honestly I love it. The reason is because it gets a more professional finish in my opinion. It's a little bit more matte and also a great way to hide any imperfections. And my goal ultimately is to make this look like it was not DIY'd. To get great coverage, I ended up applying about 2 or 3 coats of this, allowing each coat to fully dry before applying the next. Using 40 grit sandpaper, I lightly sanded the fronts of the drawers. This created a smooth to the touch surface. Before applying a final protective finish, I use an old lint-free rag to wipe off any excess debris. To protect the stain and the paints of this furniture piece, I went with a polyacrylic finish for a couple reasons. Number one, this one comes in a matte finish, and I love that because for me, a matte finish furniture piece looks a lot more high-end than a glossy. Also, it really hides all of the imperfections that you might have been in the paint job or in the stain job, and also it's so easy to apply this. In the end, I applied 2 to 3 coats of this. Also, I like to use a brush because I get better control of the polyacrylic, and I like to go in the direction of the wood grain. I spray painted the drawer pulls in a matte black, and you all, it looks so good. Okay, so everything is nice and dry, so I'm going to go ahead and reattach the drawer pulls. And I think it's going to look a lot better than it did before. So let's just go ahead and do that. That might take a while, but I'm just going to blast some music and get to it. I also cleaned up the metal frames really well, and I spray painted them, but I lost the footage. The color is Metallic by Rust-Oleum, and I am obsessed. So let's take a look at the final look of these tables. Alright, so that was today's video. I think the tables turned out pretty great. Let me know down below what you think. Honestly, they kind of give me Pottery Barn vibes. But honestly, I think I'll probably end up selling them just because I really don't have a need for them in my space. So I'm curious to see how much I'll sell. Make sure you like this video and subscribe for more thrift flips and DIYs. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye!